John Herschel was there at Cambridge, and he knew these people and had dinner with them all the time. And these were some of the leading lights in the early side of science. And of course, it's obvious from what I've said, but I'll just say it just the other way around. Robert Grant was unusual because he was one of the earliest that I've heard of professional scientists. I mean, we're professional scientists. We get paid to do this, which is really kind of great. And, but otherwise, it was, back then, it was landed gentry, it was people of means and clergy people who were basically the scientists of the day. And there was an overlap there at the universities because some of them were getting paid, but they also were expected to be, in this instance, also clergymen, and active clergymen with a flock, you know, that they would tend on Sundays and so forth. So he was, all right, so there was no professional class, really, that was well-peopled, at least in England, of professional scientists, that it was just beginning to start. And as I say, Robert Grant is one of the earliest examples of that I know of. Okay, the next slide, we're finally, all right, so I'm just summarizing this. He knew of transmutation. There's no way he didn't know, and he tells us, of course, about this, Robert Grant just going off on him about this and just sort of, as we would say, putting it into his face back then. But he was also, you know, of course, familiar with the prevailing idea, which was that basically species were created by God. That was it. And people would hedge the question, they would not discuss it. It's quite clear now, Martin Rudwick is very good on this, the great geology historian, that the scientists back then, by the 1820s and 1830s in England, certainly in the 1830s, but even in the 1820s, they realized that their job was to find physical causes, secondary causes, natural causes of natural phenomena, no matter how much God might be underlying the system in general. But science's job was to look at the physical reality of the world and discuss things in physical terms. That's what Newton did, who was deeply religious. And Newton did not feel that his work was in any way calling into question the existence of God. He was talking about the secondary, what they called the secondary causes. And people were shying away, though, from the need to explain the origin of species. And it was just like a big black box. And they wouldn't even talk about it. You look at, I mean, you read the stuff from the 1820s and the 1830s, and it's so, I'll show you some. It's so evolutionary, you can't believe it, and yet it's not. It's sort of like a proto-evolutionary thing, and it's not really that. But they had, meanwhile, they had basically figured the whole system out without going the whole way. So he's aware of these two possibilities, and as he says later, and I'll